Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about why I choked on step 2, why I got a 250, a 12-point drop from my 262 on step 1. The hope is to be transparent, be honest with you, and I hope no one suffers the same fate, this terrible fate of doing poorly after you've prepped, you've had solid prep, and you worked a ton, you worked hard for it. I prepped for step 2 for about a year, maybe like 3 weeks or a month after I took step 1. I took step 1 in May, and then I took step 2 in July of the following year, near the end of July, and I'll have a screenshot with my score and test date. But it boils down to I had a poor mentality, the mentality of a loser, honestly, going into step 2, especially like the month of and the day of for sure. And this was a multi-hit, kind of like that multi-hit cancer model, multiple things kind of happened to me and I let them happen to me. I had this victim mentality, or this I was angry, I was bitter about some things, and it was an emotional day for me, and so I couldn't focus and I couldn't perform. So let me give you some background. So, third year of med school is totally different than your first 2 years. My first 2 years, COVID had hit. I had all the time to myself. I could go to class if I wanted to. I could watch lectures on my own time. I could skip class. I could watch recordings at double speed. I could wake up and study for a day, and then I could take a day off whenever I wanted. I was spoiled. Doing well on step 1 and having 2 years to prepare and having no time constraints, not having a job because you're a med student, it's kind of like not that big of an accomplishment, I realized. So in clerkship, I started off internal medicine. Let me tell you my clerkship order: internal medicine, OB, primary care, surgery, neurology, psych, and obviously I took step 2 like three weeks after my psych rotation ended. So I started off in internal medicine. I mean, I honestly, the truth is, I hated internal medicine. To me, it was I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand table rounds. I couldn't stand rounding. The pathology was not interesting. And then I just didn't have a good experience overall, in the sense that I had expectations that weren't true. I was expecting to be pimped. I was expecting to use my step 1 knowledge, answer questions about beta blockers and ACE inhibitors and these other internal medicine things that I knew. No one asked me. No one paid attention to me. It was round, pre round, and then pre round, and then round, and then table round, and then round, and then noon conference, and then sit around waiting for work or waiting for an admission. And there was so much downtime, and I felt like, man, I'm wasting my life here. And I was so angry about it, and I didn't utilize this downtime to study. I read a little bit of up to date, but I wasn't like studying for step 2 in the hospital. I didn't take the license. I didn't feel confident enough that I could just open up UWorld and ignore the residents and my seniors and whatever, and just focus on what I was doing. No, I thought I had to be attentive the whole time. I took it too seriously. I shot myself in the foot in that way. I was constantly paying attention. Every phone call they got, every message they got, whatever. I was like, oh, do you need help? Do you need this? Maybe I was overbearing. I don't know. But, the experience, clerkships are not for you to learn medicine, just so you know, if you're a third year med student. Clerkships are for you to learn how the hospital works, for you to network, and for you to just, you're shadowing, for you to get exposure. And if you're a superstar, maybe you're gonna get some medicine out of it. But we had a rhyme scale. I can go over my clerkship grades one time in one video, but I ended up getting reporter interpreter for internal medicine. So obviously, I didn't do well. But my friends did have better experiences than me, so maybe it was just my mentality. Um, the other thing that drove me nuts is I got mixed feedback. You work with one attending, they tell you great note, great detail, concise. Another attending tells you, oh, not enough detail, make it longer. And I just constantly felt like I could never do anything right. And so I was bummed again. So whatever we have, I do my internal medicine clerkship. I'm adjusting. I do my OB clerkship. There, I have like really highs and lows. There was some highs where I'm getting to like suture and I'm in the OR and I'm thinking, okay, this is preparing me for my surgery clerkship. And then there was just like nights where there was nothing going on. We just had to stay up till 5, 6 a.m. just waiting for an emergency. So sleep deprived, and I felt like it was meaningless too, because so I had no passion for it. You can do a lot of things. You can stay up for 18 hours if you believe in the cause, but I didn't believe in the cause. So again, like maybe my poor mentality, but also I think some of the system and my expectations where I thought I was going to actually learn some medicine just killed me. It just destroyed me. I was so bitter. So then I do my primary care clerkship, and it's like on internal medicine all over again for me. It's like I'm just in, I'm just bored out of my mind. I literally can't do this, and I'm thinking at this point I'm thinking, man, like I think I'm gonna quit med school, and I literally did get so close. But why didn't I quit? Well, guess what? We're trapped. You've already paid all this. You're in debt. You're 2 years in, and then you find out what it's actually like. So I mean, you've been warned here. You need to really look into medicine and see like, is this for you? What's it actually like? And I made the mistake. I didn't reach out to anybody, but I was down. I was not doing well, and luckily, you know, this clerkship it ended, and then I went into surgery. And this whole time, I've been waiting for my surgery clerkship, and I put it near the end because I wanted more experience in the hospital, and I want to hit the floor running with surgery. And I could honestly say, my surgery clerkship, I mean, it saved my life. It was finally doing what I thought I wanted to do, and I was finally getting people were depending on me, and I was finally doing something, and I finally felt there was some meaning to it. I was doing my best retracting. I was doing my best anticipating the needs of my seniors and my chiefs, and I even elected to do a week of nights that was optional instead of days. That kind of put at night everyone gets like ranked up like a little bit, like there was no fellow, there was no whatever, so I could like I wasn't double scrubbing. I was just like me and the chief resident and the attending, and I was getting to do stuff. I was getting a staple bowel, and I was getting a suture, and I was getting a bovie, and honestly it was fun. I think later I realized like, oh, surgery isn't necessarily the general surgery isn't for me, but at that point it was new and it was fun, and I was being invested, and I was being taught, I was being asked questions, I was being treated the way I thought medicine should be treated. You should pimp them before the case. It was so funny. Let me tell you about my OB rotation. One time, spent like 3 hours the night before reading up on all the patients for like clinic. I show up to clinic and the attending's like, okay, let me tell you about the patients. I was like, man, I just like wasted all this time. She doesn't even expect me to know anything. But with surgery, they challenged me, and so I flourished, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna stay with this, and I finally felt a little bit of happiness. So now all this background is going on, and then I have these family problems that just blow up in my face, and I wasn't ready for it, and I let the family drama, and I let people put me down in my family, and that affected me a lot. That affected me emotionally, and I guess like I don't know your situation, and I'm not gonna obviously tell you spill all my personal details in this YouTube video, but everyone's different. Everyone has challenges. You're gonna have emotional, physical, personal, mental challenges in med school, and any when you're achieving trying to achieve anything great. And basically, like your parents and your siblings. I mean, my dad did internal medicine residency in the '90s, and it was worse than clerkships, obviously. But still, they don't understand what you're going through unless they're actually going through it at the same time. And even in some med students, they have a different experience. Sometimes you're off early, sometimes you're not, and you could just be that person who's not lucky, who just gets held because your senior just likes to keep you till 6 p.m. every day. So I had this family drama where my some of my family members putting me down, not understanding what I was going through, and I was just on my own. And I didn't have. And why did I start this video by telling you like I had the mentality of a loser? I had a poor mentality because these same family members were the family members I had during my MCAT times. during step one, during the first 2 years of med school. But at that point, I had a strong mentality, and I stood my ground. And I said, "No, I'm busy. I have to. I need to study right now. I can't take care of you right now. I can't deal with this right now. I need some distance. I need some space." Anyways, these things happened, and it just accumulated. There was like this background of my clerkships, the way I didn't expect med school to go, and then these family problems, and it was like more than usual, and it just became an avalanche, and it just snowballed on me, and I felt I was responsible. I was the one who had to put the family back together, and I wasn't successful in that. And this all kind of started at the end of my surgery clerkship when I was doing my neurology and psych. So I just started doing worse. I was studying, but I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't meditating efficiently. I wasn't in flow state. And let me tell you, so I got internal medicine. I got passed with commendation. We have pass with commendation, honors. OB, I got passed with commendation. I got manager from the rhyme scale. For surgery, I got manager in the rhyme scale. And then neurology, I got manager, but at that point, like manager is expected of you, you know? And I got passed with commendation. And then with psych, I got educator. I think that was they were being nice, and I just got a pass. I choked on the psych shelf. I couldn't study for it. And basically, like the 2 months leading up to step two, I had let this. I've been sulking, okay, about all this stuff, all these family problems, all these like childhood traumas that resurfaced somehow, on top of like my med school experience, which I thought was not ideal, and I thought it was a waste of time, and I just wasn't able to focus. I wasn't able to sleep. My routine was off. So then what happened? So then I'm scheduled for the test like end of July. And in hindsight, I definitely should have pushed back the test. I should have spoke to my school. I should have done something. But I said no. I said winners always win. You always press forward. And I did press forward, and I did my best. And I thought I'd be able to focus and whatever. So couldn't sleep the day of the exam, 2 weeks before the exam, not able to sleep, not nothing. You know, I'm still studying as best as I can. I take like the UWorld practice test, and I do decent. I don't remember what it was, but I did got like a 260 or something that told me like, oh, I can do this. So whatever, I go on a test day, and still like I remember something like there was another trigger like 2 days before, and in test day my blood's boiling the entire time. I can't focus. I can't even read the questions. I'm like skimming through these questions. I run out of time in every single block, probably by 2 or 3 questions. Some questions I'm literally just looking at like a snap, like snapping a picture in my mind of the text and then answering it. Wasn't able to work out, what they're asking. It was just like instinct. It was all just instinct. It was primal. I'm like reading and blasting through and trying to keep up, and I'm knowing that in my mind, like there's this little sliver of hope, like, oh, I'm gonna do well, but in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm struggling right now. What am I even doing? Why am I even here? Why am I even taking this exam? So at the end, what happens? I get a 250. Okay. So that kind of says something, and that kind of brings me some pride, even though I'm still disappointed in myself. I'm still embarrassed, of course, but I'm not embarrassed enough that I'm gonna hide it. I'm embarrassed enough that I want to share with you this experience because I don't want it to happen to you. If that's like the one thing, the one good thing that comes out of it, I guess the advice I want to give you is you have to protect yourself. You have to protect your mental health. You have to protect uh, your personality, your confidence. You have to protect your routine. You're the only one who knows what you're going through. You're the only one who cares about your score. You're the only one who cares about your future. And remember, I was lucky in that my step one was not pass fail. And so I had the step one score kind of like covering me. But now with step two being the only scored exam, you're not going to get a second chance. So I think part of the reason I was able to kind of press forward, I still had a decent step one score, and I said, okay, well, I did bad. I got the score like in the middle of my fourth year, my first away rotation. I'm like in the middle of the OR. I go out, I get like an email. I got my score. I see this 250, and I'm like, man, I gotta keep my head up. I gotta perform the next, in the OR. But I was down. I mean, I was bummed. I reached out to my PD. He was like, that 250 is not the reason that your application is weak. It's still your research. So, But I'll always wonder what would have happened if I had gotten a 273 or a 280 on step two. Maybe it would have made a difference. Maybe it would have altered my entire life. I mean, that's something that I'm always going to wonder. But basically, I want to tell you, your family, your siblings, your parents, your attendings, even they took step two like 10 years ago. They took step one like 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. They don't understand what you're going through. No one does except you and your peers. So you need social support, and you need to advocate for yourself, and you need to stand your ground. Don't let yourself get distracted by drama, by toxic people. You know, keep a distance, and then reach out if you don't feel like you're performing in the way that you expect, or if you feel like something's off. Anyways, having said all of this, I still got that 250, and that's because of solid prep. I definitely prepped well so that even on a low performing day, I still performed not in the 30th percentile. And I'll make a video about my prep in part two.